Hi, welcome to the MemSQL Developer Livestream. This is so exciting. Today we get to incorporate Cypress end-to-end tests inside of our project. Last week we grabbed Vue test utils to do unit tests. Today we're going to do end-to-end tests. Now end-to-end tests are from the UI all the way back. So we're not going to mock out the database. We're not going to mock out the API. We're going to flex everything from the user's perspective all the way down to the end of the system and back. Now, in these end-to-end tests, we could choose to mock some things just to get more control over the interactions. But in this case, it's about a smoke test. It's about validating that things run end-to-end. So let's dive in. Okay, so to start off, we would say Vue create my app, and we would go pick our options. Now, we've done this previously, and we didn't pick end-to-end testing. So there's an interesting blog post here that talks about how to add, that's not it, here. Is there any other solution now with CLI 3 to add tests? Yeah, we just simply add the add-in that these tests reference. And so let's do exactly that. We want our Cypress test, so Vue add Vue end-to-end Cypress. And there it is. I've actually done that previously just because, the first time around, it takes a while. We'll have to install Cypress. That installs a headless Chrome. That installs a few other things. So we've already got that installed. Let's pop open our code and see what we've got. Here's our end-to-end folder, E2E, and it has some content. Now, all of this is JavaScript right now. Let's come back to that. We also modified our packagejson. Here's our packagejson, and we now have tests end-to-end. Vue CLI service, test end-to-end, that's perfect. Here in our test, we're running our unit test. Let's also get it to run our integration test. npm run test E2E. Now we do want to run in headless mode. We'll see the head with head mode, the UI mode in a minute, but these aren't parameters to npm, so let's add -- which says these are the parameters to the actual program that you're going to run under the hood. So now we'll run our unit tests, and if they succeed, we'll run our end-to-end tests in headless mode, and away we go. So our tests. npm run test E2E. This will kick up our application. This will also kick up Cypress, the Cypress UI, so that we can play with it. So first step, it's going to build. Starting development server, that's perfect. That's going to do our TypeScript build and get all of our code into place so that, much like it would run in the browser, we can run it from Cypress. This does take a minute. I wish there was more UI here. More progress, but I get it. Actually, while it's starting up, let's take a look at the files that we've got. Okay, so we've got this E2E folder, which is brand new. Here's our unit test folder, which is right there. ESLintRC. We have some support commands index. The index just references support, importing the commands. The commands right now is completely commented out. It's things that we could use to create additional commands. Like if we wanted to add cy.login, then it would do this function. Or cy.drag, and it would do this function. So that can be helpful. Plugins. This is what kind of kicks off the thing. And this just says, here's where all of the folders are. Now in a default Cypress config, these would all be in a Cypress folder. Here they're in test/E2E. And so there's all of the files that we have associated with our solution. Are you running? Getting close. And then here's finally our spec. This is the test that we'll run. Touching up a touch. We can go to the Cypress docs, and they're actually quite good about pulling in all of the things. But for this test, let's just run it. My first test. Okay, go, 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 go. Yeah, builds being builds. So one of the things that we notice is that we have cy.visit, cy.contains. It does all of the things assuming this global cy variable, which is awesome. One thing that we don't see is like set timeout. There's no set timeout to say, well, wait for the page to load before this happens. And that's really cool. Cypress integrates much more deeply into the browser than something like Selenium, where Selenium just kind of has to wait and then scrape the page again. Cypress actually listens to DOM events, so it can say, hey, I noticed that there's a DOM navigation happening here. I'm just going to wait for the DOM content loaded, and then when it does contains, it'll actually time out for a bit, waiting for that element to exist if, for example, we're doing some Ajax things. And so that's perfect. We can now test a whole lot more freely just by typing through all the things. How's this doing? Ooh, we've got our web server running, localhost 8080, and now it's starting up the Cypress UI. That localhost 8080 is the same URL that we had previously that got us to running in the browser. Awesome, here's that Cypress UI. So we see that we're using Cypress version 3.8. That's the one that got installed by default. Cypress 4 is out, which has a great TypeScript story end-to-end. And the plugin didn't install Cypress 4. But in time, we can, perhaps in a future live stream, we can upgrade to TypeScript 4, or to Cypress 4, and use TypeScript end-to-end. Okay, running our test. Waiting for localhost. I love this. Here's how to begin cy.visit in your app to load that first page. Now we're waiting for the app to compile. Oh, there it goes. It's going to visit our home page. There we go. It loaded our home page. Now it's checking to see if we can get this welcome to your Vue.js plus TypeScript app. And because we installed Vuetify, it actually replaced that H1's content with welcome to Vuetify. So that test failed. Let's come back in here and we can say, well, let's ask for welcome to Vuetify. Coming back into Cypress, it noticed that our code was updated and now our test passes. Well, what happens next time when that page content changes? This isn't a very durable test right now. We're just kind of validating that the text we chose is still the text we chose. Let's make this a little bit more durable. First up, let's flip to TypeScript. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close this as we flip over to TypeScript. Hopefully that isn't a mistake. Now, right now our test is in JavaScript. We really want our test to be in TypeScript. So let's rename this to .ts. We noticed in our plugins, it referenced all kinds of things, but it didn't reference where our tests were. That's okay. There's this really cool blog post about how do I set up that's not it. How do I set up TypeScript with Vue CLI's Cypress? And it says, so here is the tsconfig that we need. So tsconfig, we can just grab this tsconfig and set it in place inside the end-to-end folder. New file, tsconfig.json, and we can set that in place. Now, a lot of this content is actually exactly the same as the content that we have in this outer tsconfig. So let's extend that. Extend ... tsconfig.json. Let me go double check that that's right. tsconfig. Yeah, tsconfig.json. So we're extending that one, and because we're extending that one, all of the details associated with that previous tsconfig are available to us. So we can then only overwrite the things that we need to. So this base URL, the post actually mentions that we need to modify it to 2 dots because that's where it is. And it's actually 2 dots and then dot, kind of mirroring what we did here, where our base URL, where did it go? Our base URL here is just a dot. There it is. So all of the rest of these are kind of handled for us. We've got strict, we've got target, we've got includes. We do need this Cypress types. And let's actually move this over here so that as we compile the rest of the application, we don't need to exclude Cypress tests and have those rendered differently, but rather we just know that we need the Cypress types straight away. And now our tsconfig is pretty empty. That's perfect. Now we can start to find those the TypeScript types. npm run test e2e. Now that we've kind of primed the pump and gotten all the things going, hopefully that'll start a little bit faster. Let's also clean this up a little bit. This is the home page. So there's home. And we may actually rename it to home.ts because that's the name of our view that we're testing. It should visit the home page. That's cool. We're doing similar things. Arrange, act. Well, actually, that's kind of more act. And then assert. Well, we don't want to say that h1 equals this. What we want to do is validate that we hit that home page. That home page here in source views home. Well, what is unique about this home page? Well, we have this class equals home. Let's say ID equals home. That's an even better way to catch it. So here in our home test, we can say side.get home.should exist. And now we've validated that we got to our home page and that that home page loaded. We could also assert that the URL is as we expect. side.url should equal. Now I'd love to say just slash, but the URL isn't slash. It's, http://localhost/ blah, blah, blah. So let's go get the base URL. Const base URL equals cypress.options.base URL. And sometimes it complains that that might be blank. Is that options? Home. Cypress.config. I was wrong. Cypress.config.base URL. And I'm going to trim off that trailing comma. So let me replace comma with quote, quote. And I only want the last comma. So now I have the URL except for that last comma. So now I can say base URL plus that. And now, as I fire up, there's my home.ts. It may take it a minute to recompile the app. Let's see if it's recompiling. Compiling. The first time it runs a test, it always takes it a minute. There we go. We hit localhost 8080. We loaded our home page. And we do have that home in the DOM. And our URL matches. That's really cool. Now this is a regular browser, so we can do interesting things like pull up Vue test utils and go poke at the content in our app, and all of that is available to us. In addition to that, we can wander through here and step at each step. So it loaded the home page, it validated that home existed. We see highlighted the thing that it found. It validated that the URL existed. And this page isn't super interesting, but we can kind of see what that page looked like at that spot. That's really cool. So we've got our home test in place. Let's also test about. New file, about.ts. And our goal here again is just to validate that the about page loads. Should visit the about page. I expect this to be about, and this should be about. Now we need to tag this page with about, so let's go grab about and we'll say this is the ID about page. While we're here, let's do that with the other ones. We can assume that the ID equals product detail, ID equals product list. Now, if these IDs are actually used by something else, then we could definitely change those out. ID equals product list. Loading is not used. You're right, loading is not used in this view. That's perfect. So we've got our product list. Let's close out this test. Can you, oh, it already found our about test. That's perfect. Let's fire up our about test. Is it compiling? It's working on it. I'm going to stop and restart it just in case. I would love to see that go green. But let's jump into the next piece. So we've got our about test. What else do we want to validate about the site? Well, up here in the nav bar, let's click on home, let's click on about, let's click on product list. Let's validate that this top navigation works as expected. Ooh, about does not exist in the DOM. Oh, you're right, because I did not navigate to the about page. I navigated to the home page. Okay, there we go. So let's validate that we can click through this top nav. That's a good test to write next. Specs, new file, topnav.ts. Now I like where we're going here of grabbing this content. So let's start there. Top nav. So I want to start by loading the home page on every site. Let's do that before each. Let's visit the home page. Now we don't need to do that in each test. Next up, let's click on the link. So sci.get, wait a minute. What is unique about this link that gets us to the about page? I love this control here in Cypress. Let's go grab that. Let's click on about and let's take a look at what it is. Oh, it's V button active. The first one, or number one, here's V button active number 2. So it's not unique yet. We could get href equals /. That a little bit feels like cheating. Let's instead Let's come in here to our app, and let's add some attributes that our test can look for. So here's our navigation, and we can say data-cy equals nav home. And by saying data-cy, we know that that is a Cypress thing. So we can say, oh, yeah, that's a Cypress thing. Nav about, nav product list. Now let's go look for that nav about button. Should nav to about page. Let's get the data-cy that equals about, and we'll click it. Now again, we don't need to wait for the browser to time out. We just now go get that thing and ensure that we landed on the right page. Let's load this up. Switch over to the nav tests. Yep, there's the top nav test. Okay, go find that about data-cy tag. Ooh, did I not save in time? Let's go double check that we did a save all. App data-cy. Oh, it's not about, it's nav about. Let's try that again. Top nav. I want to find nav about. I found the nav about page and I linked there. So now I can start out. Here's the home page that I got to. I found the about page. I clicked on it. I landed on the about page. And I love that, this is the view that the browser had at that particular spot. That's really cool. So we've navigated to the about page. Let's navigate to the product detail page, or the product list page. Product list. And product list should exist, and this should be products. We also want to build a test about navigating to the home page. We're already on the home page, so are we cheating? Maybe. Because we could successfully navigate nowhere and this test would still pass. Might we want to say cy.visit about first? Well, maybe I want to test that clicking on the home button on the home page works. So let's leave it be. We might want to keep thinking about that test though. Okay, should nav to the home page, should nav to the about page, should nav to the product list. Did it not find product list? Nav product list. Ooh, it didn't find a nav product list. Let's look at this guy and see what this is. Inspect nav product list. Did I spell that wrong? I don't think so. Let's try that test again and see if I just hit a weird blip. Oh, product list does not exist in the DOM. No, we didn't click it. What is the thing? What I like about this is when we say go click it, it will show us what it clicked. It clicked that thing. So here, when it clicked it, it clicked that thing. Now product list, it looks like it didn't wait long enough for this to load, and thus it didn't navigate. Let me see what I did. Oops. Let me see what I did wrong in this test. Not there. Specs. Top nav. Open. Nav product list. Yeah, that I would expect that to work. That is weird. Okay, product list. I hate this, but let's push the button again and see if it works better. We did click there on product list, and product list should get us to products. I'm actually going to click it and see where it goes. Oh, we got this nice 404 not being able to navigate to our back end. Loading is not defined in Vue router. That's interesting. Product list. I bet I know what it is. Here in Views, product list. We deleted loading from up here, but I bet we didn't delete loading from here. Yes. Cool. Our end-to-end test was able to find an issue in our code. That is perfect. So it's recompiling our app right now. While it's recompiling, we've got this navigation test. Now let's test our product detail page. Or product list page and navigating from product list to product detail. Product detail.ts. Now we've already validated that we can go from our home page to our product detail page. We don't need to do that again. But we do want to load the product detail page and navigate from the product detail page in our product list page into the product detail page. Should visit the product detail page. I'm going to do this at the beginning before each. Let's go visit not the home page, but let's visit products. And we assert that product list should exist and the URL should be products. Okay. So we visited the product detail page. Did that load? Ah, green, gorgeous. We're getting a product list 500 error. Now that's because our backend isn't running. So let's go hit up our blog post that identifies how we start cluster in a box. So we'll go grab our license key out of the portal. We'll set the license key command prompt, Docker compose up on our Docker file here. Here's that Docker compose that will launch into our Docker file. We'll also want to launch the API. So here I am in the API folder, npm run start. This is an end-to-end test, so we're starting from our UI through our API to our database, back to our API and back to our UI. Nice. We did notice though that this test passed even though the page didn't load correctly. So let's take down that API and replicate that result. It loads, but we get the 500. We don't want a 500. We want to ensure that the product list appears. So just loading products isn't sufficient. We want to sci.get our component. So let's go find a data-cy way to get at the component and ensure that that exists. Should exist. So here's our product list component. And we know that after it finishes loading successfully, it will load this product list component. So let's say data-cy equals C product list. That's a good way to know that we've loaded our product list component correctly. Product detail, let's do a similar thing on the product detail component. Product detail. And while we're here, we can tag our not found component. And we can tag our loading component. And our error component. And just for the sake of completeness, let's tag our hello world component. Now in our tests, we can go look for this data-cy, and we can know that that's the thing that we want to grab. See, hello world. Now we know if that loads correctly. Product detail. So here's our product detail. And if that component loads correctly, now we know we've got a thing. Let's load this. Did it hit our back end? Oh, now we're compiling. Stop, reload. Okay, so let's continue dialing out our product detail page. So we know that it loads. Let's go find the number of products it shows. It should show a list of products. So now that's good. This isn't actually an action, but let's do it here. Nope, let's not. I want to go get at the product list. So how do we know what this is? Well, let's add another data-cy. Product detail card. Okay, so now we can go look for this product detail card in our product detail test. And we should have length greater than 0. We should at least have one product. How many do we have on the page? Well, ultimately, we don't know because this is the database, but we know that we won't have more than, well, we hard-coded in our backend 20. And in our front end, we don't have a reference to that, but const page size equals 20. And let's reference where that came from. It's a constant in API, routes, products, and it is page size. In time, if we ever get this into our client app, then let's reference that directly. So we should have at least one and no more than 20. Now, even though we're doing end-to-end, we're still validating that we've got the stuff. Let's see if our page loaded. So nav worked. That's cool. Oh, 500 error. Our test has failed. Oh, because we're on the product list page, not the product detail page. Or product detail tests. So our nav got to the right spot. Now here in our product detail, nope, that test failed. That's perfect. Let's start our API back up. And now let's rerun these tests. Should visit the product detail page. We should expect to hit that. Ooh. We're still getting a 500. That's unexpected. Localhost 8080. Let's navigate to our page the regular way and see what happened there. So we get there, product list. Yep, there it is. I think it was still compiling as it was going. See product detail. So here is our product detail component. Oh, haha, it's not product detail, it's product list. Product list. Should show the product detail page, should show a list of products. We've got our list of products, perfect. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to click this button. Well, what's unique about this button? Right now, nothing. Let's go tag it with a data-cy attribute so that we can get this, so that we can navigate to this component as well. So here's our button, data-cy equals product link. So here's our next test. We want to navigate to the first detail page. Now, because we're not mocking the database, we don't know what component this is. So validating that we got the right page is a little bit out of the scope of what we're after. But we're validating, we're smoke testing our app, and that is perfect. Okay, so let's cy.get the product link, and we're going to get the first one, and we're going to click it. That's definitely an act. And then assert cy.get data-cy equals, we created that C product detail component. And so let's validate that not only did we get to the page, but we also got that component. So we can validate that we got to that page by saying the URL should start, should contain. And it's base URL plus product plus something else. So I'd love to do a regular expression that would do interesting things there, but that's good. So we go get the first product link, we click it, and then we navigate that we got to that page. So let's actually tag that with a comment. Click first product link on detail page. Save. Okay, should show a list of products. That's perfect, should navigate to the first product detail page. And because we're validating that that component is done, we also validated that we finished loading. Ooh, C product detail did not exist. Let's take a look at this. see product detail. Did I spell it wrong? I did. Should navigate to the first product detail page. Wow, that was so fast to be able to navigate through all the things. That worked out really well. I love that Cypress allows us to, at each step, go in and take a look at what is the page that we loaded, what is the button that we clicked. So here's that click, and it's showing us that red dot saying that's the thing, and away we go. Here's how the page looked there, and then we got into it, and here's how the page looked there. The other interesting thing that it's doing here is inside of our tests end-to-end folder, there is, oh, it isn't there yet. Okay, so we did a great job of creating all of these tests. Let's run them all together. Run all, and now it'll load all of the tests and do them in a really interactive way where we can go look at all the things and validate that they work as expected, and that works out great. Ooh. All green tests. That's great. So now let's run them in the command line. Now we hacked up our package.json to include running both unit tests and end-to-end tests in headless mode. And so let's do exactly that. npm run test. So first it'll run our unit tests, test unit. Here's our unit tests. This is what we did last week. If you'd like to take a look at building unit tests using Vue test utils, grab that video on YouTube. It looks like I have some linting errors. That'll be interesting to solve. There's our code coverage on our unit tests. Ooh, because we had this this fail, it actually didn't get to our end-to-end tests. That feels like we didn't time out long enough, so let me run that again. Yeah. It took too long for the product detail page to show up. We may need to add an additional timeout in that test, but assuming that that would fail, or that would pass, test e2e dash 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 headless. And now this is what the build server would run, hitting those unit tests and validating that the unit tests run successfully, and then hitting our end-to-end tests, firing up Cypress, and then having that fire up Chrome, but in a headless mode. So we're not actually popping up a browser in this case. We're still running our tests. Now this takes a minute, but this will be totally exciting. Meanwhile, ooh, just started up our local test server, or our local Vue app in development mode. I'm not sure why it's trying to lint outside or inside the node modules folder, but okay. It's running an Electron 78, which is Electron build of Chromium. So it's a decent analog to Chrome. In Cypress 4, we also get access to Firefox and Edge, the Chromium-based Edge, and that is really, really cool. I hear that Safari is coming soon, but that that's difficult. Awesome. So all of our end-to-end tests passed, and this is really, really cool. One thing that we notice here as we're starting to get ready to commit our code changes, not that, here, is we have this new videos folder. Here's the videos folder, and this videos folder includes an MP4 of all of the steps in our end-to-end tests. So it did this, and then it did this, and then it did this. And so this is a great thing as a build asset to be able to publish so that if our tests go wrong, we can know how to go solve them. But we do want to ensure that we don't accidentally commit these. So in our .gitignore, let's also add log files, Cypress videos. Let's exclude that videos folder. Now we don't have all of those videos that we accidentally commit. So this was really cool. We got to take a first stab into Cypress. We built tests, end-to-end tests that validated all of the pieces of our components that we